Well, how much snow would you say? We got
30
8
feet.
inches? 30 feet?
Do you think you got 8 inches?
I was thinking I got 4 when I shoveled last night, and I know we got a couple more tonight. So 6 to 8?
If I got where I live, if I got 4 inches total, I would be surprised.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. It just didn't, it's like an inch here, an inch there. It seemed yesterday. I could be wrong. I know the higher elevations have gotten hit pretty well. I spoke with my parents yesterday. They live up near Richfield Springs, and they had about 6 to 8 inches yesterday afternoon.
Oh, wow.
And as you get down into the southern tier, it's a very interesting storm. It's a doozy. You might have gotten 20 inches of snow between yesterday and today. You might have also gotten about an inch or two, which, as I said, that's kind of where I was. Either way, it's enough to have to get out and do some plowing. I think we probably had between yesterday at 4 and this is at my house, so it's very localized. And this morning, that's when I know my wife parked her car, and I brushed it off this morning. Nice guy.
Nice guy.
Well, it's survival, man. I probably had there's probably about a half an inch of snow on her car. We've got really nothing, at least where I live. Anyway, you might have something different. You want to report how much snow you received in the last 24 hours? 315-736-0186. Syracuse plays tonight. This is a big is it Ohio State? Who do they play? Yes, Davey. And I think they're ranked, 16th in the country. So this is another top 25 challenge for Syracuse. So far, they are 0-1 in top 25 challenges, 0-2 in tournament challenges, and tonight they'll playing. That's on ESPN2 at 7:15. Comets play tonight on the road. You can always get that online as well. Coming up, we'll talk to Rachel Sutherland from Fox News on this whole thing going down with Manafort. Apparently, there's word that he might have lied after he cut a deal, so Mueller is pulling back the deal. We'll talk to Rachel Sutherland on that. DOT, an update from Jim Piccola on all the projects that are going on and how they're going to proceed through the wintertime. And there's a lot more to get into. There's a ton of news here this morning. And you've got a strange hit-and-run accident that happened on Route 5. An elderly couple, they were hit by, I believe it was a white SUV. They say the driver was a white male, and he took off.
Unbelievable.
How do you, I guess if you take off, you're taking off for what reason? It almost kind of seems like you have something to...
Yeah, like you're not licensed or
not licensed,
something
maybe a
like
cocktail
that.
or two.
Could be a cocktail, too.
Yeah.
Or could be a more serious... I'm wanted for something more serious.
Could very well be. We have no clue. I guess it's possible he didn't know he hit the person. I have to tell you, in the SUVs, sometimes you can hit something and not even hear it, and not really feel it because they're buffered pretty well. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to give the guy an out, but maybe you could use that one. I'd use it.
Well, how bad of an accident was it?
They had minor injuries, right, Andrew? The couple, the elderly couple.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
But they went to the hospital, and, on top of that, somebody could have a stinking heart attack. Right?
Yeah.
You get hit, you get nervous out there. Obviously, the roads were a little slippery yesterday. Jesse Ventura, who we've had on this program 2 or 3 times, might be worth grabbing him again. He says he's considering a run for president of the United States.
Oh, okay.
And if he does run, by the way, he looks like some Scandinavian ancient war criminal. If you look at him right now, you got it like one of the original Vikings without the helmet and horns. It's unbelievable.
Before horns were invented.
Yeah, they didn't have horns, and it wasn't part of his Viking uniform.
Oh, I think he's just
what the hell is going on? And he says, "Listen, Trump won't be able to touch me if I run."
He's living off the land.
He is, yeah. And apparently they don't have a barber there. They don't have a barber in that land.
Are they now, is all of a sudden our future politicians are all going to come from WWE fame or something?
It's crazy.
Can you imagine, it's election night and Jesse Ventura is going up against Donald Trump in a ladder match? I mean, I'd pay to see it.
Cuomo says he is not running. I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that he's scheduled to meet the president in Washington in the next couple of days over this tunnel situation. But he has said that it's going to take someone. I don't know I forget his wording, but I guess it wasn't far more dynamic. But
it's
going to
not
take,
just anti-Trump.
But it wasn't that was his statement. But there was another thing that he had said about describing the person who would have to go up against Trump. And it was almost like he was saying, I'm not dynamic enough. I'll get the exact quote.
We know he wasn't saying that.
I do think you might be a little more polarized than one would think. And maybe you're feeling like, you know what, I don't think I could beat Trump. So why put myself through it? I'll wait to see if Trump wins the next time. And then that opens the door for me in 2024. Who knows what he's thinking. Rachel Sutherland standing by right now from Fox News. And the Manafort story was a big one. They're reporting a couple things out there. Mueller is saying there's some lying going on, and there's a foreign newspaper claiming that he might have been meeting with Julian Assange from WikiLeaks.
Yeah, quite a tangled web of stories in the Russia probe today. They started breaking yesterday. Yeah, we've heard that Special Counsel Robert Mueller's basically ripped up the plea deal that Paul Manafort agreed to in September, meaning they're not going to live up to their end of the bargain, but he cannot withdraw his guilty plea. And they claim that he's been lying. So he's been supposed to be cooperating with investigators since this plea deal was struck, and they're saying he's been lying. We don't know what the lies are. All we know is that Manafort denies it. Now, there's that second twist that you're talking about. The Guardian newspaper reporting that Paul Manafort met with Julian Assange of WikiLeaks in 2013, 2015, and most notably the spring of 2016. Now, they're only just citing sources. So, and this is one publication with this. Manafort's team denying the story outright. Rudy Giuliani, I believe, telling NBC News is an outright fabrication. But that would complicate things, not only for Paul Manafort, but possibly for the White House.
And it's interesting, we really don't, when we learn things from Mueller and his team, while it is said that Mueller is leaking this and leaking that, we really have no evidence of Mueller leaking anything. However, when he communicates with the court, that stuff goes public, and it's usually maybe a sentence or two, but we learn oftentimes a lot about what's going on, right?
That's exactly right. We get these little dribs and drabs of information because, as far as I can tell, this investigation has been pretty leak-proof.
Yeah.
The court filings do signal information. And when we know, obviously, it's public record that this plea deal is basically blown up for Paul Manafort, and then you start looking at why, and it's the lies that we don't know what lies there are. And then all we hear is the response from his legal team and the president's legal team. So it is a story that I think there needs to be more dots that are connected. If Paul Manafort did meet with Julian Assange, which, by the way, WikiLeaks, as we know, is the one that publicized those hacked emails from the DNC, then there needs to be some more connecting of the dots. Is that enough? I don't know.
I know you're one on facts. That's why we talk to you each morning. But this is for a feel. Do you get the feel that because a few weeks ago I kind of felt like this Mueller investigation was ramping up, but now I kind of begin to feel like maybe it's not wrapping up as quickly as we thought?
It all has to do with getting that final conversation. Now, the president has given the special counsel some written answers to questions, but we understand that he has not answered any questions regarding obstruction of justice. That may mean that Mueller will come back and say, we want more, and the negotiations could continue. I don't know. When I hear stuff like this, I'm thinking, well, maybe they are getting closer, but we're going on in the spring. It'll be 2 years, and it's been really exhausting for a lot of folks. So I don't really have a sense that it's wrapping up. I think one day on a Friday late, it's all going to hit.
It's all going to hit.
That's my prediction.
We will have a feeling. I'm not sure what we'll have to talk about. I'm not sure it'll be collusion, but I think there'll be a lot to talk about with this thing. All right, Rachel, thanks so much. We appreciate it. All right, Rachel Sutherland from Fox News. What else? We'll talk to Tanya Powers in a minute. There's a Chick-fil-A story out there that's worth biting into, if you like that. How about Dino Babers was runner-up as ACC Coach of the Year? Who was Coach of the Year, Davey?
Dabo Sweeney from Clemson.
Oh, give me a break.
Yeah. Dino Babers, but I would think, though, that Dino Babers would be the perfect candidate because such a transformation of this team happened this year.
Been ranked the first time since 2001.
And almost beat Clemson, by the way. Notre Dame was a little rough. I get it.
You know what? Syracuse,
listen,
basketball and football, there's a bias against them.
Notre Dame was rough. Notre Dame was rough. But I got to tell you something. If Dungy remained in that game, I I would have hope. You see this kid able to pull stuff off that is somewhat unorthodox. And anyway, they did the this ranking that they do. The what do they call it? The college football.
Oh, the college football playoffs
ranking, and
the
that was
final
done,
one before the bowl things are announced on Sunday.
That was done
number
last
20.
night. Number 20, Syracuse. They were number 18. I don't know. How do you fall to number 20 when you win?
Well, so Syracuse in the AP Top 25 in the coaches poll went from 19th to 18th, so they actually moved up a spot. But in the college football ranking, were they also 20th last week?
They were 18th.
They were 18th, like Bill said. They fell down 2. And a couple other teams
doesn't
tumbled,
make
too.
sense.
I don't know how you fall down. And other teams, by the way, lost and fell. How do you fall? It's like, okay, this is a correction. We got it wrong last week.
It's bias against Syracuse.
No, I do think there's a correction. I'm sorry. I have to say this. I still don't completely buy into Syracuse as like an elite program in college football.
Well, I buy into there's a recovery going on. And depending on how far Syracuse is willing to invest will determine how far this team is willing to progress.
They got to put their money where Dino Babers' accounts are.
Yeah, I think they got to start right with it's got to start with him.
Yeah.
Geraldo Rivera, who's a regular, usually on Friday mornings on Kilmeade, a very, very staunch, big, humongous supporter of President Trump. Yesterday made some news on Fox and Friends. I believe it was yesterday morning. It might have been one of the other programs. But either way, I think it was on the 5, said, and this is one of the quotes, "I am ashamed of Fox News and the way that the migrants are being treated." He stated, I want to say I'm ashamed. This tear gas choked me. We treat these people, these economic refugees, as if they're zombies from The Walking Dead. We arrested 42 people. 8 of them were women and children. We have to deal with this problem humanely and with compassion. These are not invaders. Stop using these military analogies. This is absolutely painful to watch. One thing I find interesting, if you watch Fox News, they're men and they're criminals. If you watch the president, they're men and they're criminals. They're coming to hurt us and rape our children. If you watch all the other news outlets, there's no mention of men whatsoever, no mention of criminals whatsoever. They're all women and children. So which is it? It's probably somewhere in the middle, right?
I'll say this. I know there's the very, I'll say popular, that's not the word I want to use, photo of the woman and a child getting gassed, right, or being near the gas. But from the photos I saw, the vast majority of what I saw approaching the border there, crossing that little, boy, it almost looks like a dam where they were crossing, was, 85% men.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
The problem is, though,
inferring anything by saying that. It's just what I saw.
If a male is tear gassed, that's, and I'm not trying to defend the, as the president calls them, the fake news media, whatever he likes to call them. But the fact is, you put yourself in the position of a photographer, a videographer, a reporter, and you put 2 people out there. You put a burly man out there on the left side, and you put a woman and her child, and the child's in her arms on the right side, and then throw tear gas in the middle. Which way do you think your camera is going to point? It's natural to be more interested in the fact that it's a woman or a child being tear gassed. And it could be a smaller number. It would be nice if everybody would just report it accurately and say, while this is the case, the majority of them were men. That could be an addendum to each story. But the fact is, I don't think it is unnatural for a human, not just a reporter, to point their lens in the direction of a child being.
It's what sells the papes.
Being tear gassed. It's not what sells that.
Well,
it's the interesting story. I'm sorry. It's not even about that. It's about you feel more compassionate when you see a child being tear gassed. Yeah. So at the same time, it would be nice if all sides would report it accurately.
We don't have a split on the, it's not like being reported as 80-20 or 75% are men or something. You're right. There's people embedded in this caravan reporters, and no one's mentioning that, it's
all on one side or it's all on the other. There's no middle ground whatsoever. Tiny J. Powers, Here's someone who reports accurately from Fox News. Good morning, Tanya J. Powers.
Good morning. Well, I try my best.
Chick-fil-A is your story today. I find this kind of interesting. Defending itself once again.
Yeah, it's apparently at Rider University, which is in Lawrence Township, New Jersey, that north of Trenton. They have a survey that they give to the students, and they ask them, what restaurants would you like to see represented on campus? And apparently they took Chick-fil-A off of the survey this time, and it was because they felt that based on the company's, and this is a quote from them, based on the company's record, widely perceived to be in opposition to the LGBTQ community. They had been in previous surveys, but they took them off of this one. They say that, they understand that some people may see this as a form of exclusion. They are going to have a campus forum on it so people can, give their opinions and weigh in. So I would assume if the students who want Chick-fil-A there, they'll be able to speak up if they would like to. Yeah. But right now, that's they've taken it off the survey.
Cows everywhere celebrating. Have you seen their commercials?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, quite possibly. You're right.
I really think their commercials are brilliant, to be honest.
Great.
So what do you say to this? I mean, don't you feel that this actually just helps a Chick-fil-A? There are going to be students that are rallying to have Chick-fil-A a part of this program?
I don't know. There might be. It's a private university, so they can, they're not under, all they did was basically take it off the survey. But, if there's people who really, really want it there, like I said, they'll be able to speak up in this forum. It'll be interesting to see if that's what happens. Or if they've read the room, so to speak, and they've decided okay, this is what our students want, and if nobody makes a fuss, then I guess they were correct. But again, it's a private university, so I guess they can kind of do what they want.
Who else is on the survey?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Not sure who else is on there.
And is it possible they maybe just didn't make the cut? Maybe we've got some really...
Well, they specifically...
Because it was on the year before, right?
Yeah, but didn't they specifically mention the LGBTQ...
that was the reasoning. Yeah, they made a statement about it.
Yeah, so they could have been like, well, listen, we just didn't put them on. But they took it a step further, right, Tanya?
Well, they may have been asked about it, and that may have been the statement they gave in response. I'm not sure how the...
Where's the Chick-fil-A?
Yeah. I have
exactly.
Two things that I would wonder. Number one... doesn't this really just bolster the whole there's a war on Christianity in America, on America's campuses? The other thing that I would kind of wonder is, even if it is Christian-based, does that mean that every single employee is a devout Christian? No. Does it mean that every single that the company as a whole discriminates? And I know there have been stories, but as a policy, I don't think they discriminate.
Yeah, there's... And honestly, the faith thing never came out until they, I believe, were asked about this some years ago, which is when all this came up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions about it. I know people personally who, love the food and don't particularly, feel like they didn't really like the stance they took with the faith-wise stuff. But it's like I said, they can kind of do what they want here.
Kind of do, yeah. All right. All I know is they have really cool signs at Hobby Lobby. Those signs you put in your man cave, some cool stuff. And Hobby Lobby is another one of those. They don't open on Sundays. So
I forgot about the man cave signs. You don't have one of those, right?
Yeah, I do not, no.
Okay.
My wife says, your man cave is the porch. Enjoy the winter. Thank you, Tanya. We'll do it again tomorrow. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Tanya J. Powers from Fox News. 30 seconds. Andrew updates the news and the weather, by the way. We have no delays right now. There are in the outskirts. I know Cooperstown, you down that way. Cooperstown has a delay this morning, but that's as you get into the southern tier. To the west, they were hit pretty hard as well. Again, depending on where you are in upstate New York, you might have gotten an inch. You also might have gotten a couple of feet. I want to go to John in Bridgewater. Good morning, John. You're without power this morning, right?
Hey, Bill. We've been without power since yesterday morning, 7:35 a.m.
Wow.
And we still have not gotten any power. And what's worse, my generator crapped out on me last night.
Oh, my God.
I'm telling you, it's brutal.
How are you? Do you? Does your heater work? Do you have a heater? Do
We
you have a
have
fireplace?
nothing, Bill. Our furnace is oil. My hot water tank is, obviously electric. And
wow.
So no, we're done. We're nothing. No running water. No nothing.
Holy
I haul
cow.
water from the creek.
Man.
So you're not a National Grid customer. You're NYSEG?
We're New York State Gas and Electric.
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible in this area that you're not?
To the south. You'll see it down in the,
Well,
in the south.
you want to know what it is, Bill? There's only like 30 or 40 of us on this one grid. There?
Yep,
Yes.
I'm here. Yep.
And so obviously they're not going to take care of us if there's otherwhere to go. I think they sent them all downstate, and they got caught with their pants down.
Wow.
Well, even some Waterville customers have NYSEG, so it's not.
Well,
that
Waterville,
remote.
Richfield Springs, you go over into that
Well,
area as well. Yeah.
I
You
didn't
go
know
down.
that.
You go down to the end of my road there, and my neighbor Kevin Revere, he's got power.
Okay.
And he's in charge of the 911 EMS.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He's got power.
Now, is he a part of NYSEG too?
Yes.
Wow, that's really
He's on
weird.
He's on a different line.
On a different line. So,
Apparently.
do you need? I mean, are you in a position where it's cold to the point where you need somebody to lend you a generator or something? What's
Well, my
some
generator
food?
crapped the bed, but I do have a portable buddy. It's called hooked
Okay.
up to a 40-pound propane tank sitting in the middle of my living room.
Let me tell you,
You're kidding me.
that's how I'm. My man cave is the porch. I put
Right.
plastic around the screen windows, and I bought one of those buddy heaters, and that thing does put off some pretty good heat.
It does. I got to admit, I got
Yeah.
it in the middle of the living room and dining room, and
Yeah.
the only thing that sucks is I got it hooked to a 40-pound propane tank in the middle of my living room.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's not
a bit of a problem.
It's
if
not
you're-
pretty,
not,
but
you know.
the good thing about the propane though, it doesn't smell.
Right? No, no. That's one thing. So
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the situation up here
Wow.
in Bridgewater.
Wow. All right. Well, we're going to reach out to NYSEG and see if they can give us an update.
So
on
I called them and they says we have nothing on record, and I said you're bull crapping me because I called 3 times last night.
Wow.
What? Nothing on record? What do you mean? Like that you're
Nothing. She
a
goes,
customer
we don't
of
have
theirs?
a ticket made out. I
Yeah.
go, what do you mean?
Wow.
I called 3 times.
Wow.
Oh, that
Well,
there's an outage.
good enough. We don't have a ticket made out for you. I go, you're full of crap.
All right. We'll look into it for you, John. Maybe by the end of the morning I can get somebody on to talk about that. All right.
All right, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
So-
Davey, try to grab him and grab his phone number so we have it. I want to quickly go to Rachel Witter from Eyewitness News. The good news is we're not in any big, cold, frigid freeze like Thanksgiving coming along, right?
True. We are, we'll probably stay about 30 degrees today, but, it's enough to keep the snow coming over the next few hours. We have the winter weather advisory out till this evening. Additional snow, probably 2 to 4 inches in most spots by this evening, and then it'll finally wrap up. So this is kind of a complicated system because we got both lake effect and just regular old moisture from a low pressure system. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch over the last few days. So that's what makes it kind of problematic, and it was the wet, heavy stuff too. So I'm gonna assume that's the power outage cause, coupled with the wind too. That's going to pick up a little bit today. So kind of unfortunate. I wouldn't put more power outages out of the question
because the heaviness.
Afternoon.
Yeah. Manaski saying in New York Mills, you said you maybe 6 to 8 inches.
Yeah. What were your totals? Rachel?
Actually, I was sick last night, so I don't have any totals. But
okay.
I think there's a lot of settling with the snow, and I've heard everything from 3-4 inches in some spots down here in the valley to upwards of a foot plus in the higher elevation spots. So it's definitely an elevation dependent storm, but we all got something, and we'll continue to get some for the rest of today.
I'll bet in where I live, it's about a couple of inches, maybe tops. It's really didn't get that much. However, as you say, into the higher elevations, my parents reporting like almost 8 inches of snow yesterday afternoon. So
it switched over more quickly in the higher elevations just because we were so close to freezing, and we just needed it to hit the freezing point, and so that's what happened yesterday. In most spots. I was hearing the same thing for yesterday, that people already had 8 inches in their yard, and it's crazy how a couple hundred feet will do that.
This is, the rent's too damn high and the snow's come too damn early. That's how I look at it. Holy cow.
Yeah.
But it's still not good snowmobiling weather yet, right?
Well, the trails aren't open,
Yeah.
so it's worthless right now. But give it a week, and I think this weekend will actually melt off a lot of this because we'll be up near 40. So we'll see. We'll see how the season starts.
I was watching, and it might have been a forecast on your station. I think 51 on Sunday. Is that possible?
I don't know that I'd go that.
You better talk to your girl over there.
We'll see.
All right. It is going to warm up a little bit, though. So who knows? This could all melt away. So, all right, Rachel, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Rachel Witter, chief meteorologist, sounded like she was coming from the weather hut this morning. But either way, under the weather, reporting the weather here with yet another storm event here in November. This is going to go down as one of the colder and snowier Novembers we've had, certainly in recent times. Anybody watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer last night?
I didn't. It was on CBS?
Yeah.
Damn. It was, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. I forgot about it.
Mm-hmm. I love those. I have to tell you, it completely brings me back to my childhood. There's only two things that bring me back to my childhood, according to my wife. It's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and vodka. Brings me right back. I don't know how that happens. Talking about Dino Babers, Michael says there's no way. Dino Babers, the runner-up ACC Coach of the Year. No way Dino Babers could be voted number one because Syracuse doesn't have a Bojangles. That's really funny if you watch Syracuse on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Because since they've gone to the ACC, there are all these commercials for chain restaurants and Bojangles that you've never heard of before. There are none of them around here. They're all in the mid-Atlantic states and to the south. Like every other commercial is a Bojangles.
Yeah.
You travel, you'll see a Bojangles. But there ain't no Bojangles up here.
There's
ain't no
also
way Dino
no.
Babers
There's also no Waffle House, which is depressing.
Also, Mike had suggested a series that I got to tell you is on Netflix, and if you're looking for something to watch, it's a about 30 minutes per episode, so it's a little easier to get through than the hour-long episodes. But this Kaminsky Project is being advertised on Netflix. Really cool if you have a Netflix subscription.
And what's it about?
I find it hard to describe exactly what it's about.
About Kaminsky.
It's a guy and another guy. It's about these two guys' lives as they're older, and Michael Douglas is one of the characters. Danny DeVito plays the doctor, and Michael Douglas is right now. I'm on episode 3, and right now he's going through this whole thing where he thinks, at the very least, he's got a weak bladder. He doesn't know if it could be cancerous or. And Danny DeVito is the doctor. It's really it's an easy watch for 33 minutes. And if you get a chance,
Project.
Kaminsky Project.
Sorry, yeah.
The other one is the one with Julia Roberts that's out. I think that might be also Netflix. That's
Did
an
she change her
awesome
name
series.
to Julia Blanken Roberts recently? I think she did. Or there was a
All I
rumor.
can tell you is the show's really good. I try to watch as much TV as I can to stay relevant. The problem is that I find myself watching, other than Christmas Lights Wars, I don't watch a lot of network TV. It's a lot of this Netflix and all this other stuff. So.
I guess I didn't see that.
It's on ABC. You got to see it.
Holiday Light Wars.
It's back on Monday night. It is really a cool
I'll tell you,
show.
they could probably do a whole episode or series with some of the houses here around here.
Nothing like this. I mean, you got to see it. Anyway, that's my little TV report today.
According to, by the way, just getting back to the NYSEG, according to its website, they have about 3,600 customers in Oneida County, and currently 36 of those are without power. And I'm obviously John in Bridgewater is
one of them.
Yeah.
So, do you not worry about 36 people? That's 36 families.
That's
right?
not what I'm saying.
No. I know it's not what you're saying, but I'm saying when there's only 36, when there's only 36, and it's in a county where you have very few people to begin with, you wonder, do they give that the full attention? Because guess what? The media is not going to jump on that story.
Yeah.
They'll jump on one if thousands of people are out. So we're going to try to get them on this morning and And by the way, Rob says snowmobile trails do not open until hunting season is over. That certainly makes a lot of sense.
It sure does. Okay, so according to their website, they break down customers by county. Like Broome County's got 90,000, but they have 7 without power. Cayuga County's 31,000 customers. They have 54 without power. To be honest with you, as I go through this list, Clinton County's got about 2,500 people without power.
There's the one below Oneida's got I think the most 475.
Oh, yeah, you might be right. Well, Madison County, I'm sorry here. So, but as I'm looking at this, it's funny because in most counties they've got 59 people without power, 69 people, 5, 136, 12.
Well, and this wet snow, this is what Rachel
54.
was talking about. This wet, heavy snow can really cause havoc. But, they've been out without power for 24 hours. It's wintertime.
Yeah, that's...
and, you think about it, no power. That means if you live in any rural area, no water because you have no electricity to pump the water from your well. No hot water, although you might have some sort of a kerosene hot water heater. But most people in the rural areas have electric hot water heaters. Chances are your furnace, while you might be on kerosene or something like that, your furnace still has to be operated with electricity, so you won't have any heat. And you gave up on your landline, the one that you used to have with New York Tel. So now you're with somebody else, or maybe it's a cellular based. So you have no phone. Used to be if the power went out, you still had a telephone. And those days for a lot of people are gone. Rob also piping in on this UC threat case. You see the trial is going on, and I believe police were testifying yesterday what they went through. His take on this is the news is playing this UC threat case like it's the murder trial of the century. Watching a TV station. Where is his line here? Their headline on KTV, UC terror trial. You know how the network news loves to give titles to everything? That's what theirs is. Are we? Is this overkill?
I don't know. That was a pretty
horrible, allegedly the campus.
Horrible event. You had people crying and being held down. Basically,
he was allegedly in the room with people watching their reactions.
And I wonder if that's going to come out. But we had somebody who was a witness to that and told us that there was, in one case, a pregnant woman inside. And again, this is just hearsay. This came from someone who reported to us that they knew someone, and this is what they described, someone that was in the room with him while this was all going on. So he knows it's happening, they say. Mm-hmm. He allegedly is the one that did all the calls, although I think he's kind of admitted that is the case now. Mm-hmm. And while that was going on, he was saying, I'm really afraid. He allegedly was rubbing the shoulders of a pregnant woman, saying, everything's going to be okay. Meanwhile, he's the cause of this whole thing. This is alleged by someone who says, I know someone who's in the room. Does that change your thought on it at all? I know that we've had his attorney on, and his attorney has said, listen, he should be punished, there's no doubt, but the punishment is way exceeding the crime here.
I would tend to... we talked about this on the show, and I mentioned something to you yesterday mm-hmm. about a case that I heard where somebody's sentence was like, what? People who rape children and murder people don't get some of these sentences. Okay,
when you get a judge that goes out there and says, you're getting 20 years. By the way, this Manafort could do 10 years in prison. He might be dead by the time he gets out if he does 10 years in prison. But I do wonder, you see rape, someone charged with rape, and while the person didn't die, so they get 3 years in jail, out in a year and a half on good behavior. And some of these other sentences are just, I don't know, I guess it means take the deal, right? Your best chance is taking the deal.
Just one more thought in that you can do something that is a prank that maybe scares people or puts everybody in a bad situation or has a bad outcome for everybody, but it's only a prank and your intent was a prank. What this guy did allegedly, to follow it up on day 2.
Yeah, that's the
if
big
you thought it was a
there.
Prank and you're like, oh my gosh, this got way out of hand. I never thought there was going to be 100 cops on the campus and there's going to be all this stuff going on. It was just a stupid prank. But then to follow it up on day 2 with a second threat is really, I think, where the argument that this guy was just an innocent guy screwing around the argument kind of loses water.
It does. Let's see. A couple more quickies before we get in. Again, there are no delays, school delays or closures in the general area. When you get down into the southern tier, Cooperstown is on a delay in some of the schools down that way. I mentioned last night was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Twitter went wild last night after it aired on CBS. All of these people discovering things that they'd never seen before on Twitter and on the program. And one of the things is when you realize it's really about a group of misfits, and chances are the concept of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer probably would be different had it been written today.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh boy, Rudolph, you're a freak.
Right. He would have been gay or a minority.
That's exactly right.
Or transgender.
I want to be a fashion designer, right? I mean,
things
would be a little different. All right, now, reindeer, I want everybody to come on in here. We're going to play some games, except for you, freak. Rudolph, you get away. You're a little weird.
Santa comes in. We're all going to do sensitivity training, mandatory.
Mrs. Claus is like, me too. I mean, that would be the modern-day Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So,
yeah, can we just stick with the claymation?
Yeah.
Please.
I like, it's a little bit of history. Can we just leave it alone?
Yes.
Holiday gift. It's an awesome idea. Probably not, but it's available out there. It is, it's a cover for your license plate.
Okay. And it lights up?
No, it's remote control. And when you're coming up on a toll, you hit the button, and it flips down and covers your license plate so that the cameras cannot take a picture of your license plate, i.e. you will not be billed.
You'll probably be arrested, though.
Just like this guy was in Florida recently. 70-year-old man. I mean, you've gone 70 years of your life trying to pay in tolls. He's like, I've had enough. 70-year-old man in Florida just got busted for using one on his minivan after another driver sent video of it to the local news. According to the cops, it is a $179 fine. Here's the local news report that includes the witness and two cops as well.
A car in front of them with its license plate covered while it went under the toll cameras. At the next bill-by-plate cameras, they took out their camera, and sure enough, look, a black cover comes down over the plate of the car ahead.
See? Yes.
After getting clear of the bill-by-plate cameras, the driver raises the cover on the tag.
It's not fair. We all have to pay tolls, so why not him? But that's what the reasons for the Sun Pass is, for everybody using those highways, so we all got to pay tolls on it.
Wow, incredible. They're getting very creative.
What's your advice to someone who would want to invest $15 in one of these things?
Well, $15 at the end of the day, it's going to be very expensive once we stop you and we make that arrest.
What do they call the guy who turned the old man in?
Narc?
Buzzkill.
Buzzkill.
Yeah. I mean, there are many names. So it was a rat. It was a pedestrian. Well, a fellow driver that took a picture of the actual license plate and turned the guy in. I have to pay tolls. He's going to have to pay tolls, too.
Listen, I understand that. But had that been me and I would have seen the guy was 70 years old, I probably would have said, hey, look at that old guy.
That
good for
is
him.
Funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We'd have been like, we're going to do a blog about that.
Exactly.
Get a lot of clicks on that.
You know, and the other thing is, too, is I want to follow the guy who did turn him in, follow him around. And when he goes 8 miles over the speed limit or something, look, I got video of him speeding on the highway. Go write him a ticket.
Anyway, you can search on the web for this device. I would highly recommend you don't do it, but it is kind of a funny, right?
Yeah.
How about? Did anybody see the story of the gender reveal party? This is a big deal now. Everybody seems to be having these. You do them on social media. You do them at parties. You'll have a party, and then they'll open up everybody's going to get a cupcake, and if it's blue, you know what that means. If it's pink,
my
it's a
sister
girl.
did balloons in the trunk of her car.
All right.
So when my sister,
that's very cool.
Yeah, that was
like
cool.
Your sister.
We did cupcakes at the.
Oh, you guys did it too?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Any more people you want to insult?
We had a cake.
I'm like,
he cut the cake, and inside it was a similar thing. What was the color of the filling? So
we never had a chance to do a gender reveal. It was just you were what?
It was just a reveal.
You now are pregnant?
You just had your baby?
Anyway, this moron who is a Border Patrol agent, by the way. And one would think that if you're a Border Patrol agent, the rule of law and logic and common sense does play a bit of a role.
Don't tell me. He bought a canister of pink tear gas and a canister of blue tear gas.
That's funny. But no,
different side effects.
It was close, though. He created this box, which was basically a bomb, and this is in Tucson, Arizona. And all his friends came around. He got his gun out, and the idea was he's going to shoot the box, and upon impact, the box would explode, and it did. And I believe it was blue powder that just flew all over the place. But unfortunately, flames came out as well. It caught in Arizona where it doesn't rain, it is so dry. It immediately started a grass fire, which led to a full-out wildfire. I guess you wouldn't call it a forest fire. But $8 million in damages. It took firefighters and 20 agencies a week to contain the fire. And this guy has caused it. I believe he's just been, he got off on probation and has to pay back $8 million. Now,
get out of here.
How's he going to pay that $8 million back? Clearly, probably not. Here it is.
Start packing up.
Start packing
up.
Nope. That, I'm going to tell you, the moment the explosion happened, there was grass fire all over the place.
Can you play it again? You can hear it. You can hear the shot.
You can hear it.
And then the
immediately flames. And then that's him saying, back up. Let's get out of here.
Nothing's ever happened like that.
Stupid?
That I know.
Back up.
Here, I think it is again. Let's try it.
And there it is.
Start packing up.
He immediately knew.
Start packing up. Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, he's saying packing up.
Packing up.
They
had all their picnic stuff out, and
time to go. Time to
get out of here.
It reminds me of a recent 4th of July celebration.
Grab me the rest of that sandwich.
I need those cinder blocks.
Yeah. That was quite an event, wasn't it? Aren't you glad you were a part of that?
Forever.
And one more. I wanted to do one more that I thought was pretty cool. Some idiots in Ohio recently moved a couch by putting it on top of their SUV. But instead of tying it down, one of them sat on it to keep it from flying off.
Yeah.
Again, brilliance out there.
Natural selection.
A woman who happened to get it on video added some excellent commentary. Although she's driving while taping this on her phone.
And looking.
Which isn't all that safe either, but listen to what she does here.
Look at this, y'all. Do y'all see this? This is real right here on Gettysburg. The couch is on the car. The boy is riding to hold the couch. This is not real. But it is. I feel like I'm being punked. Look at this.
I would do anything.
That sounds like Tracy Morgan.
I would do anything if you would hire that woman to do our sports.
Or anything.
Or anything. And now the community update with a lady from the car.
They're on the couch.
Here's what's going on. The roads are probably, Jim Piccola from the DOT, probably in better shape today than they were yesterday.
Yeah, coming in, pretty much bare pavement on most of the state highways. Even the local roads are in pretty good shape.
It is also amazing as you're driving down the road. Yesterday I was leaving here, and we were in the middle of a winter weather. We were in a winter storm watch, and it had switched over to a winter storm warning yesterday afternoon. I don't know, maybe around 11 o'clock, some 11:20, 11:30. And big signs along the highways saying winter storm warning. It's really amazing how you guys are able to communicate.
Oh, absolutely. Those boards are throughout the state, and again, as things change, we try to keep up with it and advise people what's going on.
What if I gave you the license plate flap device? Did you hear about that coming in?
I did hear about that.
For Christmas, it'll be our gift to you for Christmas. No matter what happens, no matter what technology occurs, there'll be someone out there trying to find a way to beat the system, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
It was pretty innovative.
All right, you have a lot of projects going on, a lot of things happening, a lot of construction, and it's the first time I'd ever seen, and I didn't know you could actually do this, but in the middle of snow, in the middle of a snowstorm, really, yesterday, you guys were laying down pavement along, where was it?
Probably on
a Riscony,
Riscony Boulevard.
Yeah.
Basically, a lot of that is temporary pavement. So again, it's just to button things up for the winter. But it's my understanding the asphalt plants are going to be closing pretty soon. So the contractors are scrambling to try to get everything done as quick as possible.
I hate to say it, usually in November you're able to get a little bit more done without snow impeding you.
Absolutely. It kind of snuck up on us a little bit, but we're doing the best we can to keep things together.
All right, so what happens with construction projects? So the 5S project, do you continue to work through the winter, I'm assuming?
Yep. One of the things that, we were hoping to get into what they call phase one, where we were going to have traffic both east and westbound shifted to the north. Doesn't look like we're going to get there. But we do have extensive utility relocations that are going to start next week with National Grid. And that's going to continue all the way through April, almost maybe into May. So, again, even though we're not going to be out there working, we are going to have our utility companies out there and working on our project to get us to where we need to be in the spring.
The Oriskany Street, where you're getting close to the intersection that cuts off just past where Holland Farms and all of them are, that's part of the 5S project?
No,
or is that a completely separate? That's the Oriskany Street project.
That's a completely different project. That's the 5A project between Schuyler and Whitesboro Street.
And I travel that multiple times a day because that's where the office and here and whatever. But it seems like it's moving so quickly. The only thing is sometimes you're traveling in the right lane. It's going oncoming traffic is swapping right lane, and then next day it's over on the left lane. So you guys are moving pretty quick there.
Yeah.
Can you describe what exactly is going to happen?
Well, basically, we had done a lot of work on the south side. Now we're trying to finish work up on the north side. And we do have a lot of businesses through that corridor, so that's one of the things.
That was one of the worries early on. They were complaining that they felt that it was going to impede business for them.
Yep. So everybody's been really good, very patient with us, and we're trying to do the best we can through there. And, again, we're trying to button that up and get that done as much as we can for the winter. And then we'll come back in the spring, we'll mill, we'll pave, do some landscaping, sidewalk, and driveway work, and be done probably early summer.
Right. So that area there that Andrew's referring to, which is Oriskany Street, basically from
Schuyler to Whitesboro.
Thank you, Schuyler to Whitesboro. That's going to look exactly the same as it did before. Unlike with the 5S project, there's a redesign. What do they call it? A road diet. You're straightening things out. You're getting rid of a median.
There's going to be that roundabout too.
Correct.
But this area where Andrew was asking about, it's going to look exactly the same. It's just new pavement.
Pretty much. One of the big thing we did there was the sewer separation project, stormwater separation.
This was primarily underground work. You had
underground.
To do. Yeah.
We ended up doing extensive water line relocation because of the impacts, and but we did put all new curbing in. We're going to you're going to have a center turn lane, which is going to be nice. Before it was not that wide. We widened it a little bit. So with the striping and that, you're going to have a center turn lane down through there, which is going to help a lot of the businesses.
Yeah, because you get into some problems over there. Now there's like some type of a dollar store there where people are. You have 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction, and people are really in a dead stop to make a left-hand turn.
Because the traffic's so heavy.
Where is this, by the way? I'm completely lost.
You know where on Oriskany Boulevard, if you kept going past the Odd, if you were going toward Whitesboro.
Oh, okay. Okay. Down where the old fast track used to be, down that way.
Right where the fast track is. They moved a couple lots down and then
They just built the new elite car washes there. It's that whole corridor.
How do your workers handle over there? Because it smells like dead dog over there. There's like an animal
factory over there.
There's an animal food factory of some sort.
That's my understanding.
And I got to tell you, the stuff seems to be seeping. I had to do a TV shoot over the summer over there, and I was walking over into that area on the other side, and my shoes were going right into the smelly muck.
Are you serious?
I don't know what the hell is going on over there.
I will say in the
has
summer.
nothing to do with you, Jim. But
this is not.
Or does
your
it?
guys,
No, just kidding.
your guys have got to be like Vicks Vapor Rub under the nose or something.
Well, the funny thing is, if you travel that area a lot, It's nasty in the summer. You can really smell it.
Yeah.
But I think this time of year, everyth's frozen.
Yeah, you're okay now.
Yeah, you don't really smell it.
It's cleaned up. Beautiful. Cleaner than it's ever
Something
been.
Sicoles.
But that stretch from the odd to, like the OD to the odd, that is going to look a lot different. And explain that. Actually, we'll go down to a two-lane
Pretty
situation?
much you have like 3 lanes in each direction.
Yeah.
What Jeff had said, we're going to kind of put it on what they call a road diet. So you're going to have 2 lanes in each direction. But one of the things that's going to be very nice is that at the intersection of Genesee Street and 5S, you're going to be able to take those lefts that are illegal right now. So from any direction you're coming from, you're going to be able to take a left.
Yeah, because it's been so confusing, and it's been there for a long time.
Yep. And then the other one would be the roundabout at John Street in front of the OD. And again, that's going to give some mobility there for people that want to go. If you're coming east and you want to go south on John Street, you'll be able to go around the roundabout and vice versa.
And how about parking? You're going to add trees in there. I know that's a big deal for a lot of people. How about parking along there? Will there be? Years ago, you used to have diagonal parking, I think, there.
They used to have parking. There's still going to be some parking. Liberty Street's going to change. Lower Genesee Street, like in front of like Utica Roasters, Cook and the Taylor and the Cook.
Mm-hmm.
There will be some additional parking through that area. But it's going to be a great project for the city.
And the hospital, you have to be considering the hospital going in when you're building this.
Yep. I get asked that question quite a bit. And, we've been working with the hospital since they were thinking about doing this. We've looked at their, traffic volumes and what have you. And our project pretty much is the same. If the hospital comes downtown, it'll look the same. If it doesn't.
I don't know if you saw the story in the Observer-Dispatch over the weekend, but they had received details on a number of sites that were rejected by MVHS, that they had done a study. That's been the big question. What were some of the locations? I was surprised to see some of those. One of those locations, the Yanendazes, they were considering as a possible location for. And several golf clubs, including Twin Ponds, I think, was all being considered. Those were being considered. And that they were rejected, and a lot of it had to do with traffic. So when you look at that traffic location, and from a DOT standpoint, it really does seem to be a better opportunity downtown in terms of traffic and accessibility than even up along where St. Luke's currently is, Burstone and Champlin. Do you agree with that?
You have the arterial, you have Genesee Street, you have access to the thruway, also I-790 and 49. So, you do have a lot of alternatives there with, people coming into that area.
Yeah. All right.
So.
And out, too.
And in the wintertime, obviously, there's still construction people out there. Keep an eye out for them because it's slippery and we don't want any mishaps out there.
Absolutely. Our folks are still out there. And, like I said, especially the plowing. It's, where we've been, give those guys a little bit of room and they'll get you to where you want to go.
And Jim said earlier you can make a protected left, and when this project is done, on Oriskany Boulevard at John Street and Genesee Street, you can make a protected left, a legal left.
Well, at Genesee Street, you'll have the narrow. That'll give you that protected left. At John Street, you'll have the roundabout. So
I'll love that.
Just
Genesee
a reminder.
To the left onto the Oriskany. That's going to be awesome.
Currently illegal, and I just saw 2 people do this. I think it was Saturday. And almost caused an accident right there on Jenny. I mean, all over it says you can't turn left.
The other confusing part is coming down Genesee Street, and if you wanted to turn right to go onto 5S, it is extremely confusing for people. Sometimes they end up in the oncoming lane, especially when traffic is light. That all will go away as well. It'll be much easier for people to make the turns there.
Right, and J Street, that section of J Street, which is from Genesee Street down to 2nd Street, will be gone, too. And that was kind of confusing,
too. It's got that
too.
little guardrail kind of in the middle of the road there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Elevated a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, interesting. Who would have thought traffic could be so exciting? But you make it exciting. Thank you. Time to do our free money question of the day, and standing by right now is Michael in Utica. Hey, Mike, good morning.
Good morning.
$100 on the line from the Hobeika Law Firm, Joseph and Andrew Hobeika. Are you ready to go?
I'm all set.
Get an answer in. Even if you don't know the answer, just get something out there.
Okay.
All right? Just get an answer before the
Throw
buzzer.
some guesses.
You'll have 7 seconds to get it in, and here we go. In the television movie, which was on last night on CBS, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, during the song, We're a Couple of Misfits, a bird clearly speaks. Says 2 words. What does the bird say? Ready, go.
I'm a misfit.
I'm a misfit. Okay. Anybody on that one?
Me too.
Me too. Me too.
I'm a freak.
Who is what the bird says. It
Who?
was an owl.
Who?
It was an owl.
Oh, it was an owl.
Who? All right, let me give you another. That was hard.
That was deep, Bill.
I'll give you another. It was deep.
In the 3rd frame of the 4th scene. What? I'm sorry. I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
Would you like me just to say, hey,
Here's
Mike,
$100.
you're
No,
caller
no.
6. All right,
There
Mike,
you go.
let's do it again. Here we go. This is staying with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. When Santa said, Rudolph, I love this series. You have to understand.
I know.
This entire series of claymation, I
I'm
make
with
sure
you,
I watch
man.
them all. When Santa said, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Rudolph responded by saying what? It's a classic line. Ready, go.
Do you really mean it?
Do you really mean it? Do you really mean it, Santa?
I could see that. That's a good answer.
It is a
I
good
did
answer.
not have a better
Of
answer.
all the reindeer in here?
Anybody? It would be an honor, sir.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one.
All right. All
Okay.
right. Well, listen, what are you going to do? Clearly, you didn't watch this last night. I was all about
Not
it.
last night.
Yeah. All right, Michael. Listen,
Thank you.
I'm not going to let you go away empty-handed, though. I want to give you a gift card, $25 gift card to the new restaurant. It's not so new anymore, I guess. It's a beautiful sports bar restaurant right next to, as part of the auditorium, the Adirondack Bank Center. 72 Tavern and Grill. It's a $25 gift card, and you got to check it out before a game or just for lunch or dinner any time, okay?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right,
Very
Mike.
nice.
All right, you sit tight.
Okay.
Davey's going to hook you up. All right.
Thank you.
You know,
I have one more. Do you want the other one?
yes.
The
Yes.
other
go
Santa
ahead.
Claus one. After Santa told Rudolph he wanted his red nose, Rudolph, what I'm trying to say is, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? And then Rudolph said, it would be an honor, sir, which doesn't sound anything like him. I can't get that
You know
one
what
down.
would have been great is if he said, now, what time are you leaving, sir? I've got a conference call in 20 minutes.
I'm online right now. I'll get back with you.
Fortnite comes out.
After Santa said that, and then Rudolph's reply was, it would be an honor, sir, Rudolph's dad, Donner, speaks up and said...
Is it Yippee?
That's my boy.
That's my boy.
Yeah.
Yippee! No, neither one.
No.
I knew that nose would be useful someday. I knew it all along. That was
But his father was so ashamed of him and wanted to cover it up.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. All of a sudden, the story, the
His
moral
father
is
accepted him,
now
yes.
all of a sudden, now that he's wanted, his freakness is accepted. So, anyway.
You know, in his Yippee.
So Rudolph
Yippee,
could have been gay.
I
if
think
he's,
is when the female reindeer says, I'm cute. She said, I'm cute.
She said, I'm cute.
Yippee.
Yeah.
That's right, the Yippee. Yeah.
That is true. A couple of stories here today that are really kind of out there. How about the mayor? And I was thinking that this mayor was going to be from Mississippi. I thought it was going to be a part of the story in Mississippi, where the mayor put a post out. I got to bring it up right now. But it's not Mississippi. It's Fort Ann, New York. Do we know where that is?
No.
Is it in the North Country, Fort Ann? Anyway, in Fort Ann, a New York town mayor who called people who vote for Democrats the R word, which I'm not going to say because I just think it's a terrible word to call people.
It's Washington County, by the way. We're by Lake George.
Oh, so it's up north.
Yeah,
northeast. Anyway, he put out a tweet that said anyone that would vote for Democrats is clearly the R word. Says he will not step down and is not actually stepping away from the comment. At an interview with the Post-Star of Glens Falls on Monday, Fort Ann Mayor Dennis Langlois, I believe is how it's pronounced, L-O-I-S, says he used poor choice of words, but it's what he believes. And he's not backing down. He posted the comments about voters on Facebook before Election Day, saying people should vote Republican and keep America great.
He's a mayor?
He's a mayor.
Okay.
Should he step down? He's not going to.
I don't know. It's what you can't say that. Okay, you cannot say that. But
chances are there's a process in place. They call it the next election, where people, if they're so offended by his comments, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that he should have to step down. The other story that I think is really a big one that we haven't talked about as of yet is this scientist out of is it China that has altered the DNA of a unborn child, and the child has now is born. I'm struggling through this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they altered the DNA of the egg, I believe.
So pre even
and I believe what they did is they've created a child who cannot be affected by HIV virus. So
really,
and he's touting this. Now, this is taboo. The science community around the world is denouncing this because what it has the potential of doing is changing human life. It really changes this human, which
sure does,
then will be carried on. It isn't like it's just this human. Any child that child ultimately has. It would basically open the door to change the entire change humanity.
Is the fear that, in, I don't know, 20 years, 50 years, you would basically order your baby?
Correct. Not even 20 years. And, by the way, he's announced today that he has another child, another pregnancy is on the way, that he has altered the DNA of that soon-to-be-born child.
So these eggs are already fertilized and growing?
I'm not sure how he actually does. I don't know anything about this. All I'm saying is
he's working on it.
He has altered the DNA of right now an unborn child, and it also opens the door to create superhumans, right?
Bionic children.
To some extent, yeah.
I mean,
if you could...
And part of the gripe that certainly this is going down a very unethical road that all scientists agree we should not do in science. However, this guy in China is this scientist in China is doing it. So they're denouncing it, but he's doing it. He's continuing to do it, and they're saying there's no reason to alter the DNA to prevent someone from getting AIDS in 2018 because there's really already a drug that allows someone to survive in healthy fashion with the AIDS virus. And it's true. Look at Magic
Johnson. Great
Johnson.
argument, though.
It is a great argument. It is. It's not about the life and death of a child. So you didn't alter the DNA so the child could survive. You altered the DNA.
So just in case it happens to be infected by HIV someday.
They wouldn't be.
Right. No, but what I would say is that, okay, so we have a cure for this, but not necessarily maybe cancer or some other diseases. So this is like... This is one feather in his cap.
I guess the question would be if they could create, if they could alter the DNA before conception or before a child is born, if they could alter the DNA to prevent the human race from getting cancer, would that be okay?
Well, again, I don't know. You're kind of playing with, someone might make the argument that that's what the vaccine is. You do it after birth, though.
Well, some would argue too that
changing the DNA, you are changing mankind at this point.
I don't want to seem like I'm in favor of changing DNA because I'm not. It just kind of blows my mind.
Well, some people would argue that there's a cure for cancer
Right.
already, and there's a cure for everything.
Well, there's not. I mean, there's really not a cure to prevent people from getting cancer. That you have methods that could eradicate the cancer, but there's really no cure for cancer.
There's no cure. But, conspiracy theorists believe there is a cure. It's just they make more
pharmaceutical
money by paying to treat
road?
it.
Okay.
Well,
I'm just giving all the alternatives here.
Yeah. Do you also believe that cars can run on air, and they just haven't released them yet because the gas companies don't want them to?
Exactly.
Don't want them to do
Come
it.
on, Bill.
Could be.
Boy, this is interesting. So what is this guy's end goal? It's just to show that he can do it, or is he trying to create a clinic where I can order a daughter with red hair and I can order a son with brown eyes?
Well, he hasn't gone to that. He has not gone down that road, but that's what scientists are fearing, that this is completely unethical and should not have been done, and it was not done to save any child.
Oh, boy.
That it could think about how this could be used. Governments could use it to develop a superhuman that would serve in a military, for
Doesn't
instance.
feel pain.
a government could decide that they want all this new society of people who look a certain way, or parents
Everyone's
could then
gotta
be like,
be 8 feet tall,
I want blue eyes, I want blonde hair, I want whatever.
There are people that would love to do that, though. Oh,
Yeah.
I want my daughter to have this, and
So it's something worth watching. It's in the. I've been in a science mode in the last. It was NASA the day before.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I'm all about this DNA thing. Wow. Although I know very little about either topic, just for the record, it does intrigue me a little bit. Tom in Little Falls. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm wondering about this. He has changed this DNA to prevent this disease. What was it, HIV but I'm wondering what unexpected change will also occur because of this, because DNA is so complicated. You're changing one thing for the better. Is something negative going to occur? This is really risky.
That's a very good point, Tom Frankenstein.
it could turn into a psycho killer. Like
right. What is? I mean, think about that. Was the whole Frankenstein thing?
Abby normal.
You do kind of wonder. Could this be? Is this foolproof? Is this perfect science, or could there be a negative effect? And who knows? You're changing mankind here.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. All right, Tom. Thanks, man.
Right.
By the way, Tom, that movie, I got to tell you, Tom, there's a movie being filmed in Utica, and it's going to be a big movie. That's what it seems like. It's a big film crew.
It is. There's a whole bunch of these white rental trucks to carry all the equipment and scenery and background and whatever. So if you see a whole bunch of white rental trucks, it's not one of the big name rental companies. It's from New York.
Yeah.
They've got a big office set up, and they've got all this, but
Tom, you've dropped off your headshot and you're ready to go, right?
Yeah, and don't break that NDA. Tom, be careful.
I did submit my headshot and my contact info, so who knows what's going to happen.
All right, Tom, thank you, man. Tom in Little Falls. We appreciate you bring up an interesting point on that DNA thing. And one more, Steven Hellenberg, you know who he is? The creator of SpongeBob SquarePants. Died at the age of 57.
Yeah.
What? And it was, good morning. We didn't really get hit too badly with the storm, although you might have. Rachel Witter earlier this morning, meteorologist at Eyewitness News, says you might 6 to 8 inches, might have more than that, might have just an inch or two. But the snow is wet and heavy. An update, if we could, from NYSEG. Is that the name of the
So we
power
have
company to some of those down south of Route 20?
So we have reached out to NYSEG, the regional communication. So it's part of a bigger company.
Let's just say we heard from someone earlier this morning who has been without power since yesterday, and his generator just conked out. He's in Bridgewater, and he's called down, and they said they don't have any
So he's been told after his third time that his ticket or his file hasn't even been claimed or whatever for his power outage. So we've reached out to the communications person for NYSEG, and we're waiting to hear back. But as of right now, Oneida County only had about 36 people without power.
Yeah, and he's one of them.
And he's one of them.
Yeah.
Their biggest county, I think, was Otsego County. They had 427 outages. So
I think they might even cover maybe Cooperstown. I do believe parts of Richfield Springs and in that area as well they cover. So wait a minute. I might have an update from John in Bridgewater. Is that him? I'm going to put our guy from Utica FC. Okay, John from Bridgewater. Hi, John. Do you have an update?
Hey, Bill. Yeah, it wasn't too long after I talked to you guys, and I got a call from a rep, and whoever was on charge last night, she totally dropped the ball because she says, I'm in charge of the pick tickets, and I don't have one here for you.
Wow.
I go, well, that's I called 3 times, man.
Yeah.
So my wife did.
do they? So now they at least have a ticket for you, right?
Well, now
He's got power.
We're priority and that they're going to get right on it.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you
so
said
they're
you had
okay. So
power.
they're on their way to you to correct your problem.
Yeah, whenever. They didn't give me a time frame, but we're priority. They told me that.
All right. Well, that's a good thing. Well,
So,
it always does help when, and again, there's nothing to do with us in particular, but it always helps when the media starts asking questions. I'm just telling you, it does.
Yeah.
You
it
know?
does, because this guy called me after like 15 minutes after I talked to you, and he was so apologetic and whatnot.
Wow.
So
that was
we did
pretty
get
early
over
this morning,
personal
too.
Between yesterday and today.
Yeah. So how did he say he knew about your situation if they claimed they didn't have a ticket?
He didn't until you guys called.
Oh, when we called. Okay, good.
I
All right.
called this morning, and the lady says, "Well, we don't know. We don't have a ticket." And I go, "Well, and she was going to put one in," and that's what she said last night. But when you guys called me,
well, I'm glad
you called.
I'm glad to hear, John, that as of this morning, and maybe it's an isolated incident, we are not the enemy of the people today. So I'm glad.
Hey, Bill, I follow you, man. I love your show, and you're awesome, guys. Thank you very much,
John.
for what
You're
you do.
you're a good man. I'm glad that this worked out. Cool.
All right, Bill. Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, that's the way it's supposed to work. So,
okay, Kai, because when I text, I was specific. This is Andrew from WIBX. We had a caller from Bridgewater. He's been a day without power. Can you talk to us about emergency situations like this?
Well, listen, stuff does slip through the cracks. It does happen.
They serve a lot of customers.
However, it really threw him. They spent the whole night without power and no generator. That's a real problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so Utica City FC is debuting at home on Sunday. And this is a big deal. It is arena soccer. And the assistant, the guy who's just been named assistant captain of the Utica City FC is Nate Bordeaux, and he's on the line right now. Good morning, Nate. Love your wine.
Morning, morning, Bill. I wish I could take credit for that, but
right.
good to be on the show with you guys.
Well, cool. All right. Well, listen, this is exciting. You guys are getting close. Do you feel like you're ready to go?
Yeah, I think the team is starting to shape up. We've been in preseason now for about a month, and Coach Ryan Hall has got us looking good so far. We have training a little bit later today, but I think the whole staff and the front office and everyone's ready to get the thing kicked off Sunday, December 2nd.
Can you talk about so you've been named assistant captain. Talk about your history, where your career began in soccer.
Yeah, so I'm from Syracuse, New York. Grew up playing locally, and then went to college at Boston College and Rutgers University. After that, I played, this is my 7th season now, professionally playing indoor, and then I've also played with Rochester Rhinos of the USL, and I was fortunate enough to play with some good enough players and win a championship there. So I've played in Finland for a year, so I've been all over the place.
You were when you were younger, you were on the U.S. national team, right?
Correct. I U18, so I was 17 years old. I was a senior in high school. I got a call up to the youth national team, which is, still something for me to this day. Is one of the biggest achievements and things I'm most proud of, for sure.
Where did you play, by the way? Where was it that year?
We were in Japan.
Okay.
So it was a tournament in Japan. It was just after the U17 World Cup. It's kind of like a gap between the 17s and the Olympic team, and I had a couple good showings with some select teams growing up, and like I said, I was fortunate enough to get a call up to the 18s.
That's really cool.
17 years old in Japan, that's got to be an experience.
Yeah.
So
yeah, of course.
You've played all around, all different levels. One of the things that we're really emphasizing here about this league is that it's action-packed. Where does this level of play stack up against other levels you've played?
Oh, the level here is, in indoor in general, the MASL is some of the best, if not the best players I've ever played with. Doesn't matter if it's indoor or outdoor. We have guys who have international experience playing with the full national team, MLS, former MLS players, USL players. You're going to see some of the most technical and skilled and best players you've ever seen playing in this league. I think probably the best players I've ever played with are in this league.
Yeah. Because that's the fun league everybody wants to be in,
Yeah,
for sure.
I want to ask you just the fact that you were playing last year in Syracuse.
Correct.
So you know Utica, and let's be honest. I mean, people are like in Syracuse. I have friends in Syracuse. They consider us the armpit of Syracuse East, and but in reality, I looked at them today and say in Syracuse, I don't know, that crime rate's pretty bad, you guys. I don't know what's going on.
Really.
But so it's clearly though we're a smaller city. There are less things to do. It's just a fact of life. How's the transition been for you, and how have you been treated here in Utica?
Well, first, I think you might need to find yourself some new friends if they're talking to you like that.
That's a very good point. Honestly, I don't like them, to be honest with you. I really don't
I agree.
like
Listen, I mean, I'm from Syracuse, but I don't look at Utica at all like that. I think we've been given a great opportunity from Rob, starting the franchise, and Tommy Tanner and Coach Ryan, and Utica's welcomed us with open arms, and even our first scrimmage was almost, if not sold out, pretty close to sold out. So Utica has been, from my perspective, anything I could ask for, if not greater. So I definitely wouldn't hang out with your friends anymore.
Yeah, I'm done with them.
They're acquaintances now.
They clearly don't know Italian food either.
Exactly.
Hello. Manansky.
Can I ask you about, at what point, was it college or high school, did you aspire to be in a major arena soccer league? What was your plan? When did arena soccer become an option as far as, a profession paying the bills? And can you talk about that? And let me ask you this, so you don't have to answer this. Is it six figures you guys make or under that?
I'll let you use your imagination for that.
Okay, that's fine. But my real question.
Great answer, by the way.
Yeah. My real question was talking about, when did playing professional soccer or indoor soccer become an option that you decided to pursue? Was it college? Was it high school? Did you always want to do this?
Yeah. So professional soccer, if you went back to, I think I've had former teachers send me letters. I was writing it since I was 5, 6 years old, what I wanted to do when I was older, play pro soccer. I was known as the weird kid in school. I think one of my friends had a rumor going around that my dad locked me in basements on Friday nights and made me train. So
you should say it was more than just the weekends.
Part of it might be true. I don't know if the door was locked. But,
that's funny.
But in terms of indoor, it didn't really sink in with me, or wasn't an option, I guess you could say, until I didn't start to think about it until my senior year of college, because my coach at Rutgers, Dan Donegan, had played indoor for a few years, and that's when Syracuse had just started team. Mm-hmm. I think it was their first season was my senior year of college, and he came to me and approached me and said, it might be a good option if MLS doesn't work out or something, because he spoke very highly of the league, and I knew how great of a player he was. So, and I knew Tommy Tanner from growing up in Syracuse, so I knew the history behind the league and the quality of the players and how good you had to be in the league. So once that happened and Tommy and Syracuse gave me an opportunity, it kind of all happened at once, to answer your question. But I haven't looked back since, and I really enjoy it.
Nate, you mentioned MLS. Is that something like sometimes you'll hear about in the NFL, guys, there's been a couple quarterbacks and even offensive linemen where they say, well, he'll go play in the Canadian League and maybe get some things worked out, and then maybe he would be appealing to an NFL team, right, or something like that. Or you even hear about that with arena football. Is that a situation with indoor soccer versus MLS? Like some guys are trying to work on some things to maybe get to MLS, or can you talk about the relationship between the two leagues, if there is one?
Sure. I mean, there isn't I wouldn't say there's an affiliation at all with it, but there are players in our league that have played MLS, aspire to play MLS, maybe younger players, guys who, so indoor and outdoor with kind of went hand in hand in years past with USL and indoor. So we had players playing USL, which is, for those who aren't familiar, kind of like the AAA of the MLS. Mm-hmm. So you have those players that, still do aspire and still do get opportunities to play MLS. We have, the talent level is, a lot of it comes down to opportunity. So there are players plenty good enough to play in the MLS. We have a player training with us right now, Gale, who's from Syracuse, who's been with the full men's national team, played MLS for a number of years. So, I mean, the level is comparable, but the direct affiliation isn't there. But, yeah, there's the talent is good enough for sure.
And just the only reason I'm asking is just to be clear, because there are, elite world-class athletes that play this sport, and you just where sometimes you hear about maybe athletes at different levels. I don't think you guys get the attention you deserve is bottom line what I'm trying to say. And I just wondered what the relationship was in between the differing leagues. That's all. So I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Nate, it's not this isn't foreign to you because soccer is basically foreign to a lot of people in all over the United States, but it's in this case in upstate New York. So obviously, kids play soccer; it's a big thing. But the football school will be like, "Well, we're a football school. This isn't soccer." So you've dealt with that your whole life in this sport that you really, really love.
For sure, definitely. I think times are changing a bit. I think it'll take some time because football, basketball, baseball, those are more in our culture.
Yeah,
I've noticed a big difference with even the kids I see nowadays playing when I go to a sports center or anything. It's definitely a lot more popular. I think my senior class, and I went to a pretty large high school. I was one of maybe 3 kids in my class that even played soccer that year.
Yeah.
And I think it's an adjustment, and I think Utica City is gonna be a good introduction to fans that maybe are just more old school. I don't know if old school is a word, but more in the American culture with football, basketball, because it's physical. You'll see Sunday at the Adirondack Bank Center that we have. Our captain is 6'3", 200 pounds, and he's an amazing athlete. But there's a lot of goals. It's very fast. It's very physical. It's very similar to hockey, but with a soccer ball and not on top of ice.
Yeah. Technically, you are on top of ice.
Yeah,
so it's just
just covered.
Good point. We are on top of ice.
Okay.
There's a carpet in between them.
The final question, though, is, you're watching upstate New York come around, and you're watching people really come around to soccer here, and I think this is going to be enormous here in Utica. Have you been able to explain the game to Rob Esch, and is he catching on?
Myself personally, I have not been able to explain the game, but I know Rob and Tommy Tanner deal or work with each other very closely every day, and I'm sure since Tommy bleeds the game, I'm sure Tommy's tried to get through and explain it. So I'm sure Rob has a good sense of what he's gotten, and he's a very smart guy, so he knows.
Well, he's going to try and play. By the way,
he might. One thing Rob does know is, and we've learned, is he knows he can see opportunity, and he has certainly seen that in this team.
He would be a great soccer goalie because I think in hockey his goals against average was like 8 to 10. So if they score 8 to 10 in soccer,
there you go.
Bada
boom. All right, Nate.
Rob's going to kill me when he sees me.
Nate Bordeaux is has been just named the assistant captain of the the Utica City FC. And opening night is Sunday. Tickets still available. The website is uticacityfc.com. And great conversation, Nate. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on. See you guys Sunday.
All right, good luck. Pretty cool. Yeah, you're in big trouble.
Yeah. So the only reason I was asking Nate that, and I think he did a good job explaining, because like for instance, like a guy like Rob Esch growing up, he wants to play in the NHL, right? When he's 12 and 14 and 16,
right.
Like that's his aspiration. That's his
what to strive for.
Destination, right? That's where he wants to end up.
You want to be in.
It's probably a different animal for a soccer player because do I go to major indoor? Do I try to be on the Olympic team?
Well,
do I go to major league?
We know it not just in hockey, but you know it in in baseball, for instance. We've grown up with single A, double A,
right,
triple A, and the next step is Major League Baseball. So it is kind of interesting to see this. And so where does this fit in that tier system,
right?
For
and
soccer?
Is this a final destination, or is this like guys want to get here to strive to the next level, or is this
That's
the
a good
level?
Question. Yeah,
yeah,
I like it. The good news is I don't think that, and we should have asked this, but I don't think that when a player starts to do really well, there's a parent club over top that's going to snag him off and take him off the team.
Which, by the way, we got Boucher back, I think.
They
recalled him to the Comets.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay. 8:30, hold on. We'll be talking to Rob Esch, by the way, I think on Friday. On this. It's a big weekend. This is a big deal.
We'll test his soccer knowledge.
We can do that. I don't know how in the hell we could do that, but maybe we can. Those wildfires, which it seems like in California, the rain, that recent rain, has pretty much solved the problem.
Yeah.
They call it the campfire, the campfires. Do we know why they call it the campfire?
Yeah, actually, I was listening to Rush, and he explained it as when the firefighters first arrive, the first point they get to is when it's assigned. So that way, when other agencies come in, they know. So for this one, it was Camp was the name of the road in which it originated.
That is true. Michael was just piping in on that and giving a little information on it.
Usually, I don't have the correct answer.
You have the exact correct answer, which is a miracle. I'm going to play the lottery today. I'm playing the lottery. I'm going to do it. Good morning, Ryan Nobles from CNN.
Good morning. I generally go to Andrew for all my little-known facts.
Yes.
He's my number one source in that department. Yeah.
It's I've noticed that with some of the incorrect answers you've been given on CNN. Anyway, good morning, Ryan Nobles. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. You know, I completely forgot to wish you a happy birthday last week, and I'm embarrassed by that.
Well, I'm
so
so glad
you.
I'm glad you didn't, because I try to. Because what you get when you do that on the radio is everybody starts calling up and saying happy birthday. You know, and that's annoying. And it's even worse if no one calls up. Then you're like, oh, my God.
I think that's really what
Yeah. So I stay right clear of it altogether. All right. So no surprise last night in this GOP victory in Mississippi, right?
No, I mean, the Democrat probably did a little bit better than Democrats generally do in races like this. I think the spread ended up being about 8 points. President Trump won Mississippi by 18 points.
Yeah.
But this obviously had a lot more focus than races in Mississippi normally do. The Republican candidate made a couple of boneheaded comments that certainly didn't help and probably energized African-American voters in that state. But at the end of the day, there's a lot more Republicans in Mississippi than there are Democrats, and so that race went the way we expected it to.
I want to just switch to a bunch of there's a lot of topics here that I just want to throw and get your take on. Republicans right now trying to squelch this government shutdown rhetoric that's out there, right?
Yeah, they're trying to. Their biggest problem, of course, is President Trump because he is willing to play hardball, and I think that he views this particular showdown as his last opportunity to get a significant chunk of funding for the border wall. I don't think anybody on Capitol Hill, including the president's top aides, think that he's going to get the full amount that he's looking for. But I think they are hoping that they can play the government shutdown as a way to at least open the door to a certain amount of funding. I just don't see how Democrats play ball with this on any level. They're going to need at least a modicum of Democrat support to try and get any level of border funding. I think that the Democrats have kind of the advantage in this capacity because they're going to take over in a month, and then they're going to really control the House. I mean, I guess the big question is does President Trump have a grand bargain in him somewhere? This is what we've been waiting for, right? This was the way he pitched himself to the American voters, that he was the deal maker. Could this be the time, at a moment where the Democrats are going to take over the House, at a moment where the president feels like he's got his last shot at border wall funding, does he come to the table with some sort of significant reform on DACA and the Dreamers and immigration in general, give a little bit on some of the things that Democrats want, and maybe they then give him some of the funding he wants for the border wall? I think that's a long shot, but that's, I think, probably the most interesting thing to watch for this week.
I found it interesting, too, after General Motors made their announcement this week that some, I don't know, how many jobs? 15,000 jobs?
15,000, yeah.
5 or 6 plants, including a plant in Canada. The president coming out and threatening to pull subsidies, tax subsidies away from General Motors. And isn't it very interesting how General Motors, after 2 days ago, their stock went up with this announcement. Yesterday, their stock went down. It's interesting how the president can really play a role in how well a corporation's stock is doing. Not sure I'm completely comfortable with that.
Yeah, right. And the other thing, too, that we have to keep in mind about this is this exact thing that happened was the exact thing that President Trump promised was not going to happen under his administration. That's why he won over white-collar union voters in states like Michigan, in states like Ohio, in states like Wisconsin, in states like Illinois. This is how he convinced them that he was going to be a better choice than Hillary Clinton. And the exact opposite has taken place. And what we saw specifically happen here was this big tax cut that President Trump helped to push through. Basically, what General Motors is doing is cashing out on the tax cut. They're not investing it back into their company and, as a result, into their workforce to grow it and expand it and create more jobs. Instead, they're taking the cash grab. They're giving it to their investors. That's why their stock went up initially. But, yes, now you see the president pushing back and arguing that he might push subsidies down. The big question you have here is, where was President Trump before this decision was made? Why wasn't he in constant contact with Mary Barra, the CEO of GM, before she made a decision like this? And if he truly is going to play this card that he has about removing tax subsidies and tax cuts, that special tax breaks that GM gets, why wasn't that part of the conversation before this decision was made? And if it was, why isn't he telling us about it? I think that's the thing a lot of people are questioning. You know, I think there are a lot of Americans that would support this idea of the president pushing back on these tax subsidies that GM gets. I think there's a lot of people that think that they get too nice of a benefit for not big enough of a return. But the question is, I think that they've already crossed that bridge. It's not as if they're going to keep these plants open now to prevent that from happening. This seems to be something that needs to be done before that happened, and it seems the president missed the ball on that.
It is personal for the president, right? I mean, when they come out and they announce they're closing plants, this does not fall in line with the storyline that we've been told how great this comeback is, how great manufacturing is in the United States right now.
And that's where I wonder, is this finally the breaking point for some of the ardent Trump supporters that fall in line or would benefit or be hurt by the expansion or retraction of manufacturing jobs? I mean, that was the most important part of the Trump political story, that he convinced working-class white voters that either voted Democrat because of their union ties or did not participate in the political process before to become engaged and support Republicans. And he did that based in part by promising them that he had a plan to bring manufacturing jobs back. And, in the spring of 2017, President Trump was bragging about a GM plant expanding and adding 500 jobs, and he promised people that this was only the beginning, that it was going to, grow by leaps and bounds. The exact opposite is happening. So if you're one of these working-class voters, maybe you don't necessarily work at a GM plant, but you know somebody that works at a GM plant, or you work for a company that supports a GM plant, because it's the 15,000 jobs that are going to be lost by this, or just the front end of this. There's going to be all these reciprocal businesses that are also going to be hurt by it. Do you start to look at this and start to ask the question? I thought that this was what President Trump promised me wasn't going to happen, and is that where you waver in your support? And that really impacts the 2020 map, because you're talking Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, all states President Trump won, all states he likely needs to win if he's going to win re-election.
The president tweeting yesterday, if GM doesn't want to keep their jobs in the United States, they should pay back the $11.2 billion bailout that was funded by the U.S. taxpayers. So he's using Twitter to get that message out. That's not a big surprise.
Well, and you know what? I think it's a message that resonates. I think of the people of Central New York who have for years and years seen companies take advantage of tax incentives to open up businesses and with the promise of jobs in Central New York, and then either those jobs never come to fruition, or the companies open up and the businesses take off within a year or two, and the taxpayer never sees that return on the investment. I think this is a big thing that a lot of American people are frustrated with, that corporations take advantage of the tax code, they take advantage of these tax subsidies, but then never deliver on the results that are promised. So I think that's a message that resonates. But here's where the disconnect often is, Bill. Trump supporters hear what he says, they like what he says, they don't often then see this through. They don't often then see the end result of this. Is he really going to make GM pay that money back? I don't think there's anybody that realistically thinks that. I mean, the stock price did dip, But is anybody thinking that they're forking over an $11.2 billion check here anytime soon?
Yeah.
That seems pretty unlikely, but the rhetoric works, and that certainly resonates with his people.
What's the talk on Capitol Hill on this Manafort thing and the Mueller investigation? The president really out tweeting pretty heavily yesterday, saying this is just when did the Democrats who are lying and coercing people to lie, when did they get prosecuted for treason? These are some of the tweets coming from the president. So what's the general talk right now?
You certainly start to get the feeling that the president feels that the walls are closing in on him as it comes to this investigation, and he seems to be setting the stage for whatever this report ends up delivering for people not to be skeptical of its ultimate results. You know, I often wonder if the Manafort end of this story, while it certainly its tentacles reach into the White House, I do believe that what Robert Mueller's uncovering is what a corrupt individual Paul Manafort was unto himself. And, you know, the idea that after he'd already cut a deal with prosecutors that was going to put him in jail for a long time, he was still lying to them, certainly offers up some clue into what type of guy he is and why his whole role in all of this is a bad one. You know, the president's tried to separate himself from Manafort as much as he possibly can. I do think that the key to all of this could be, you know, Manafort providing some sort of direct link between whatever stuff he was messed up with with Ukraine and Russia and Moscow versus whether or not that made its way all the way into the Trump campaign. And if President Trump knew about it specifically, that could be the missing link. Whether or not that's going to actually be delivered in the Mueller report, I think, is the open question, and it could be one of the reasons President Trump is so nervous.
Here, I'd like to do the president a favor. He's tweeted out a question for CNN, and now that I have you from CNN on, I can ask the question for him. Will CNN ever ask Border Patrol agents how they felt having large rocks chucked at them by criminal illegals? Can you answer that question from the president?
Yeah, I actually have an answer for that. I've been off all this week, but I know Breonna Keeler, my colleague, had the president of the Border Patrol Union on her set last week, and they talked about this very specific issue. So this idea, you know, that we're not covering the other end of this, the type of people that are trying to get over the border, the tactics that they're using against Border Patrol agents is a myth. That actually, I mean, I watched that live. Breonna asked the Border Patrol Union president that specific question, and we have reported that some of them were injured, although not that seriously.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the other point, though, that the president seems to forget about is that he sent a whole flock of, federal troops, military troops down to the border with the goal of backing up the Border Patrol agents, and they weren't even needed, and they ended up going home early. So he misses that part of the conversation. I think the Border Patrol agents have done a good job under difficult circumstances there. I do think that the tear gas images were not a positive one, but I don't think it's the first time they've been used, and it's certainly not the first time they've been used under different administrations. So, you know, the president, this is, you know, the game he plays in terms of trying to spin this story in a certain way, and I think we're doing our best to tell, you know, both sides even-handedly. I
do have to ask you, which is it? Is it a bunch of women and children? Is it all men and many of them are criminals? Or is it somewhere in between? Because depending on who you watch or who you listen to, or if you're reading the tweets from the president, it's one way or the other. So which is it?
Well, you know, it's probably a little bit of everything, right? I mean, there are certainly women and children there. We've seen those pictures. I don't think that the vast majority of the people in that caravan are women and children. They probably are young men for the most part, because that would be the type of person that would be able to sustain that type of an effort. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. It doesn't really matter, because we have a process at the border that deals with this specific problem. It's the asylum process. You come to the border, you declare asylum, someone talks to you about your asylum claim, and a decision is made whether or not that is worthy, and you can then take on to the next stage of the process, or they turn you around at the border and you go home. If you try and get over the border illegally, as some people were attempting to do, you get arrested, you get pushed back. You know, the demographics of the individuals doesn't matter as much. What matters is that the process is followed through in an appropriate fashion at the border. And sometimes President Trump seems to lose sight of that. And I think, you know, he has pushed, you know, for a stricter process at the border. There's no doubt about that. but it's about more than just that. And I think that, by scaring the American people with this idea that, minorities to a certain extent are just pouring over the border and are going to infect your communities, which is what he, alludes to. Is not the way to go about a serious conversation as to how to solve this problem.
Interestingly, Geraldo Rivera, who is a huge supporter of the president, coming out yesterday and saying he feels the way we have been reporting on this and dealing with it is shameful. His comments were pretty strong. I don't know if you read any of that from yesterday.
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Ryan.
Yeah, well, and I think the rhetoric hurts on both sides. Yep.
No doubt about it. We appreciate it. We'll do it again next week. Enjoy the rest of your week off.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Ryan Nobles from CNN back here tomorrow.